Everybody can relax. I found the car.
What the hell is a gigawatt?
The 1980s wasn't just ruled by toys and cartoons. As we've discussed on this channel several times, the 80s was also the decade of the star car. These were vehicles that were either the focus of or virtually stole the film or TV series from the actors themselves. Our world as children was dominated by thoughts of these vehicles, as well as Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars, along with some licensed cars from Ertl of these famous star cars, and a few action figure toys. In 1984, vehicles that transformed into robots appeared on the scene. Almost immediately, many kids couldn't help but dream of transforming versions of Kit and Airwolf, but the only options were to pretend a Transformer was that vehicle. Kinda sorta. Because as kids, we didn't understand licensing legalities. That's why Turbo Teen was a chintzy model kit from Monogram and would never be a Transformer with Hasbro or a GoBot with Tonka. But now we live in the post-internet age of the mashup. And while that got off to a rocky start with Star Wars-inspired Transformers that were, frankly, worthless wastes of time and engineering, Hasbro finally realized the real allure of making Transformer mashups is in the famous vehicles of film and television. Thus far, their most notable releases in this category have been their Ghostbusters-inspired Ectotron, a transforming version of the famous Ecto-1 ambulance, and a Back to the Future tribute named Gigawatt, a transforming version of the famous DeLorean time machine that becomes an Autobot. Right from the off, we need to address the packaging. Hasbro has clearly wanted to link these toys to the Generation 1 experience, putting them in G1-style display boxes with the logo flaps. Both boxes have little visual cues to indicate these are specially themed releases, but more of an effort was made on the box for Ectotron by a wide margin. Not only do we have the G1-style coloring and labeling on the box, with original artwork of the robot itself as would have been done in the 1980s, but we also get the original G1 collage artwork on the back. The file card is pretty pointless, as Hasbro opted to cram as many languages onto that area as possible, so the profile write-up is a mere sentence, and hardly worth reading. Gigawatt's display box has all of the corners cut in terms of graphic design. The back of the box has no G1-era flair, just some very tired stock artwork of the DeLorean time machine from Universal's PR department. On the front of the box, they couldn't even be bothered to give Gigawatt a designation next to his name. Admittedly, Ecto-1 isn't much of a designation, but at least it helps preserve the 1980s box style. I'm surprised they didn't at least put Time Machine on there. Anything to give it that extra bit of business. The toys themselves are pretty much standard modern Transformers in design and materials. That's not a bad thing, just something you need to be aware of. These are not G1-style Transformers, despite the illusion the boxes try to sell us. There are no die-cast metal components to these toys, nor any chromed accents. The boxes are G1, but the toys themselves are very much in the style of the Classics and Generations toys. The scaling of the toys in vehicle modes are markedly larger than the G1 vehicles. And yeah, I know the G1 vehicles weren't always in scale with each other, but overall these toys fit into a fleet of modern Transformers far better than a lineup of metal G1 vehicles. The transformations of these two figures are pretty straightforward, and unlike some of the modern Transformers, I didn't have much difficulty or confusion getting them into robot modes, and on both I never once worried parts of them were going to break. Ectotron's main design quirk is his massive shoulders. He ends up looking like Sigourney Weaver, not from Ghostbusters, but from Working Girl. However, you can tell the designers put a lot of passion into the robot design. Ectotron's eyes are Ray's famous Ecto goggles. His chest plate and coloring is meant to hint at the tan Ghostbusters jumpsuits. The most impressive feature on Ectotron is the design work put into the roof rack equipment. The entire unit comes off as a single component and transforms into a proton pack for the robot as his main weapon. It's pretty smart work on the part of the designers, using key components of the roof rack to double as key parts of the proton pack. He also comes with a full roaming vapor ghost to catch. It's a nice touch, I guess, but not something I would have missed. As a bot, Ectotron stands between Jetfire and Prime in height in G1 terms. Gigawatt's quality overall is markedly less than Ectotron. As a vehicle, he's serviceable as the DeLorean time machine from the first film. But, like many Back to the Future licensors, Hasbro did not spring for a license for the DMC logo for the grille, which is very strange when you consider that the internal display card shows a schematic for a stock DeLorean DMC-12. Also, the designers chose to make an attempt to sculpt the brush marks of the stainless steel of the real vehicle into the look of this toy. While I applaud the attempt, it makes the toy look like it's 3D printed rather than brushed stainless steel. However, as I said, the durability of these toys seem to be just fine, and comparable to other modern Transformer cars. The accessories that come with Gigawatt are where the overall presentation really starts to falter. Firstly, the display bubble is formed around them so tightly that you run the risk of breaking the parts when attempting to remove them. I had to slice the bubble into ribbons to get them out safely. The rifle is a basic design that utilizes the Mr. Fusion device as the buttstock. When separated, the main gun stows up underneath the front bumper of the DeLorean. As for the Mr. Fusion, it has the most poorly designed peg I've seen on a toy in decades. It doesn't fit at all onto the rear of the car, it just sits there and then falls off. Thank goodness I prefer the original time machine from the first film anyway. The lightning rod and hook is a pitiful effort from Hasbro. I understand wanting to make the accessory out of something pliable to prevent it breaking, but again, the packaging results in the accessory emerging as a warped, deformed bit of nothing. When transformed, Gigawatt has a nice look overall. However, his articulation seems somewhat limited compared to the other modern Transformers. This might be due in part to the very wide bonnet of the DeLorean preventing much arm movement, but his legs also seem a bit restricted. Gigawatt has a configuration similar to Sideswipe in robot mode, though like Ectotron, his scale is visibly larger than the G1 Autobots. Gigawatt's robot design is a by-the-numbers affair. After seeing Ectotron's Ghostbusters jumpsuit, I was surprised there was no effort made to make Gigawatt look more like Marty McFly in his design cues. Maybe white feet with red side stripes? Or possibly a wristwatch? Or maybe some blue leg and arm highlights to hint at jeans and a denim jacket? I don't know. My point is, Gigawatt feels less like an overall tribute piece like Ectotron and more like a marketing layup. They just focused on the car rather than the entire flavor of the franchise. There was clearly some common sense with the design of the vehicle in terms of the doors opening the way they should for a DeLorean, which is a great touch. It is a shame, though, that the rest of the robot can be seen so clearly through the front windshield. The flux capacitor and time circuits being on his chest indicates the overall lack of thought in Gigawatt's configuration. Where Ectotron has a lot of logic and thought built into his design and accessories, Gigawatt just seems like a slapdash of basic elements. Having the flux capacitor right out front where it can get destroyed in a direct hit doesn't seem all that wise. At the same time, his face doesn't fit the atmosphere of Back to the Future, with those strange round eyes looking more like something out of a 1930s science fiction film. A more traditional Transformer visor eye plate would have looked so much better. And with doors as cool as the DeLorean's, it's really too bad they couldn't make those doors flare off of his back more dynamically. I guess it's possible all of the good ideas for a transforming DeLorean were taken by the now famous Marty McPrime fan artwork, and Hasbro had to steer clear. All in all, though, Gigawatt fits nicely into a group of modern Transformers alongside Ectotron. These are fun Transformers to own, even if they don't quite fit in with the rest of the cast. Thanks for watching that, everyone. If you want to see more Transformers content, you can watch our Dinobots retrospective here. And if you just want to see more Ghostbusters content, you can watch our Ghostbusters Playmobil review here. And now it's time for these two Autobots to transform and roll out.